Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of NCW, also known as New Comic Wednesday. If you haven't been with us before, we chat for a few minutes every Wednesday about Zenescope's newest releases. If you don't know who I am your NCW host, Amber, and we have some lovely turkeys and turkey legs because the birds were finally fried and baked and they lost on Monday and they have been cooked properly, but also because it's Thanksgiving next Thursday, and I'm sure you all know that. For NCW today, I have a few releases that we will be talking about, but before we dive into those releases, where you can buy Zenescope's news releases, you'll head to zenescope.com, press new releases, and it will show you everything that we have new and then previous weeks before that. You can also check out our new releases digitally on Comixology at any time, or at your local comic shop, you can request to subscribe to Zenescope. We have a lot of ongoing titles such as Belle, who we'll be talking about today, and Van Helsing, Robin Hood, our Grim Fairy Tale series, our Grim Tales of Terror series, and a couple other titles. To make sure that you never miss an NCW, never miss a VCon, you never miss any of our lovely content that happens on this YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe, you push that notification bell, and you follow Zenescope on here. Also, if you missed it today, a brand new Everything Zen came out, so make sure that you check out Everything Zen. Now we're going to dive deep into our three new releases, and today we will have on writer Pat Shand, who we'll bring on in just a moment. Before I dive in, I'll talk about our first release that he was not involved with, which is our Belle Annual. Our Belle Annual is $7.99 in our web store right now, written by always our Dave Franchini, who has written the entire Belle series. And I have 4 beautiful covers, and I'm sure Casey would love to pop up. Let me know which is your favorite. As always with any annual, this is a typically the longer story, can sometimes loop in different types of characters, can sometimes loop in some crazy antics. And if you haven't tuned in for Belle before or read Belle in the past, you'll see a couple of shout outs for our lovely turtle Hershey, which there's especially one that I really loved. But without further ado, let me know what your favorite cover is, and I will read the synopsis. Annabelle Belle DeMarco has been on a mission to not only save her mother's damned soul from a fiery afterlife, but also to clear her conscience for the guilt of putting her there. Now armed with the knowledge she needs, she must breach the hellish lands of tortured souls called Tartarus, which I don't know if I feel confident in the way that I just said that, so please ignore that, but you know. Tartarus? I don't know. I'll play along with it. With not only her mother's, but her own soul on the line, will her skills as a beast hunter be enough to defeat Typhoon, who reigns over this realm? 64 pages. So again, our annual, and you're probably wondering why there have been multiple annuals of Belle coming out this year. I saw actually a question of that on our VIP page. And I know that our Belle Annual 25 came out, I believe, in February this year. So I think that, you know, it just synced up because it was a big issue for Belle. Maybe this one ended up a little bit earlier than we initially had published, but I'm sure I'll bring that on and talk with Dave about it at another time. But again, our Belle Annual, like I said, annuals are longer, more in-depth stories on certain characters. I'm sure I'll bring on, you know, Dave soon, but one highlight that I really want to say about the story without giving anything away is like, A, you want to read Belle 25. Obviously, there's been other Belle stories in between, but 25 really dives into what happened to her mom and why she has so much guilt for this reason. And also, her best friend in the story has like a baby holder for Hershey, and I'm just wondering, A, is that ever going to hit our merch store? I don't know. Ask Mark Sells ASAP, but also B, like, Dave, there's just a little turtle, like a turtle just chilling in the pocket. And does Hershey need to be involved in all of these excursions? I don't know. But read the story to find out what other baby Hershey merchandise there might be at Zenescope in the future. Okay, that was our annual today. Our other 2 releases are shaped around one of our most beloved characters, which is Van Helsing. And we'll be releasing and talking about our graphic novel today, which was written partially by Pat Shand and I believe partially by Joe, We'll also be diving in to talk about our newest single issue release, which is brand new, which is Van Helsing Rites of Shadows. That's $5.99 in our web store right now. And I know Casey's going to pop up all this stuff for me. Wonderful. And there is 4 very beautiful covers. As always, tell me what your favorite cover is. We can talk a little bit about, Rites of Shadow and what other dives in we're doing later today. So I will read the synopsis and then I will bring on Pat to talk a little bit more about Van Helsing Rites of Shadow. As Liesl Van Helsing continues to uncover the secrets within her father's extensive journals, she finds herself in New Orleans in search of a mysterious and dangerous being who has been terrorizing families and stealing their souls. Guest starring Mystere, this issue will send Van Helsing down a path of discoveries that will change her life forever. 40 pages. So tell me whatever your favorite lovely cover is out of these. And without further ado, here is Pat Chan. I don't know if I can hear you.
No, I'm not talking. Hi.
Oh my God.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my God, Pat, you had me going there. Oh my God, you had me going there. That was so funny. So, Rites of Shadows. Let's talk a little. Obviously, in this storyline, we're not only getting Van Helsing, we're getting some Mystere action. How much fun is it to write not just a core character that you're specifically focused on, like Van Helsing, since you've been writing her ongoing issues, but also bringing in another character and getting to write her?
It's interesting, first, before we get to this, I might have not seen it, but did you not address the turkey legs?
Oh, I did. Well, I did address the turkey legs. I said, hey, this is the Eagles fried because they lost on Monday and it made my life and I'm very happy about it. Gotcha. But also this is my Thanksgiving wear because everyone was complaining last week that I was wearing Christmas stuff. So I didn't want to specifically skip over Thanksgiving. So here are my turkey legs.
That's good. No, that's a good move. I wish I had my own. But yeah, so Mystere, I wrote that character way back in the day. I remember Ralph and Joe and I conceived of her at the office during one of the staff meetings. We brought some new energy into the second half of Arcane Acre with Lance, Mystere, and I brought in Wigloff as a main character who was a small role in the first arc. So back then she was just Mary Medina. We had her power set, but she was still a student. And at the end of my run, I wrote her in Apocalypse, but never since then, so I hadn't got to write her as Mystere yet. So I had a lot to catch up on. So it was still, Mary as the core character, but I had to, read what she's been up to since, see how she's become the Oracle of the Dead, Mystere, all that stuff. And there's a lot. And it was cool to see that, because when I was at Zenescope, Joe Bruscia had the titles that he would write. He really enjoyed writing these horror graphic novels or miniseries like Satan's Hollow and that kind of stuff. But now I see that he has he's written a lot of Mystere, he's written a lot of Robin Hood, and there's some overlap there too. So I was able to, sort of look back at what she's done and just trace the journey to who she would be now and just get her voice down again and go off.
And so you were fully prepared. So you had to read a lot of her. You had to do some research, and then it all came together in the story, Rites of Shadows.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. It fit. It kind of pushes Mystere's story forward while also pushing Van Helsing's story forward. So it was. It felt a bit more because Hour of the Witch, right? That pushes Gretel's story forward a bit, but it was still very much a Van Helsing title. This one, it feels equal parts Mystere and Helsing. It pushes both overall arcs forward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Rites of Shadows. What does that mean?
Rites of Shadows. What does that mean? All right. So there is a creature in the book. I won't say much about who he is, but he is on the cover. And there is a very interesting pattern to his appearances and what he does. As I was reading the concept, it reminded me in a good way of It, Stephen King's It. So I played a bit into the history of that there because there was, there's always these ancient evil stories where you see people begin to realize a pattern over time. This is very much the same thing here. But the trick with this character is that there's something that he couldn't have done before, that if he gets access to a certain victim, he'll be able to exponentially increase who he can harm. So that's a major problem here for the characters. And he's a cool villain that I think people will be scared by, perhaps. He was very Hakan Aiden, who drew the story, did a great job depicting him in a very creepy manner.
I will say very creepishly drawn.
Oh yeah.
Very terrifying looking.
Yeah, I saw the character design and my mind started to go wild and think of like certain attributes to pull into him, certain quirks of the design that we didn't see on the covers that we can explore in the book. Like, for example, his chest opens and he has some interesting things coming out of it.
Yes, there is a lot of things that are worth noting about this character that we won't necessarily spoil right now on the stream. Just know that it is very creepy and it is worth the read to see how creepy it is.
Thanks.
It's look at my I'm really bad about spoiling things on here, so I try not to.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to walk the line where I'm giving enough information to pique the interest, but not, people have already bought the issue and are kind of tuning in to see what I think, so they want some background too, and they've read it, but not everyone's going to read it day one,
Yes. Yeah. Every time I nod, just like
do a little headbang.
There's just like,
oh yeah.
Okay, thank you, turkeys. Okay, so we are in New Orleans, and New Orleans is a very, very cool city, and something obviously is how we connect Mystere and our lovely Van Helsing character. When do we feel that she's leaving New Orleans?
Van Helsing, right? Or Mystere?
Van Helsing. And no, I feel like Mystere is always staying in New Orleans.
She's sticking around. Yeah.
Wait. Quick pause. Do you say New Orleans or do you say New Orleans?
I say New Orleans.
I see New Orleans usually, but I'm trying to say what the people say.
I'm like halfway there because there's like, all right, so on the far end, there's New Orleans. In the middle, there's New Orleans. On the other far end, it's New Orleans, So I gotta sit in the middle there. So
you're right.
Yeah.
How do you guys? The thing is, like, I could ask fans how they say it, but like they won't even, they won't even say it right. How would they say what they were going to type? I don't know. Maybe there's a way to type it. I don't know.
I mean, some of these fans might be Zenescopers,
Oh my God, that's the worst when people call it Zenescope. The worst.
I hear Zenescope from fans more often than Zenescope. It's true. I always try to like sneak it in there. They say, "Hey, you wrote for Zenescope, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote for Zenescope."
Anyway, so when do we feel that Van Helsing is leaving this area, and where do we think maybe she's going next?
All right, so Van Helsing at the end of the issue, out. She's out of there. Okay. She, this was sort of her playing in Mary's playground here. She has her own thing, that she's kind of getting back to. This was it wasn't a side story for her because she does something in the story that is very relevant to her main ongoing story, which is Van Helsing versus her father's hybrids, right? Mm-hmm. But once she settles what's going on here, she has to get out of here and kind of get back to the main hunt. Where's she going next? I am writing where she's going next right now. She has been back and forth to England. So that's where all of her history is,
Yeah.
So she's been pretty much England, East Coast, England, East Coast, New Orleans, England again. So it's England next up.
Kind of sucks for her, just shout out, because it's permanently cold where she is. Like England, freezing. East Coast, freezing. It's not like she's making her way to Miami. NOLA can be warm, depending on what time of year she's traveling to. But I'm just saying it's permanently cold for her, and I feel a little bad. Yeah,
she's been chilly recently, but she's a Rolling Stone.
Okay, let us dive into our next release, which is the graphic novel.
Wait. I didn't pick my favorite cover though. That's not right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Casey, will you pop up the covers and
Casey, Brennan, what's going on, dude? All right. Let's see.
I'm genuinely interested. What is this wheel of Zenescope in the background of you, Casey? I don't know what this is. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a very fast second after the show. I don't know.
Let's see. Oh, this is a hard one though, too. You know, I have a tie. Is that all right?
Oh yeah, always down for a tie.
All right, my tie is A and C. A is just so dynamic, and I like that it shows both characters together. You know, for a team up, only one cover having the two characters together, so that's an important cover. You know, that's the cover, shows hero, helper, villain. Great cover. And then iconic, painterly, beautiful cover C.
Cover C, got it.
Yeah.
I don't know what my favorite is. I like all of them in their own special way. It's so crazy how the jump from, and I get why, but the jump from cover A and B, like the monster looks exactly the same. Like there's always usually tints of artists putting in their type of style, but I feel like besides a little bit darker green on cover B, cover A and B look like exactly the same for the character, the monster.
Oh yeah, no, the monster is depicted exactly the same way there. I think that some artists have a different style. I think the colorists of A and B have a very similar style.
Yeah. Well, there is our lovely individual issues. Now to jump onto the graphic novel. Today's graphic novel, Eye of Oblivion, has one cover. It is the J. Anacleto cover that you see actually in a lot of our backdrops at conventions if you ever go. It's $29.99 graphic novel, which is a little bit more pricier than our typical graphic novels because it has a couple more collections in it. So I'm going to dive a little bit into it, but it is written by multiple authors, as you know. Liesl Van Helsing has taken on legions of undead creatures over her many years on this world. One after another, they have tested the strength and fortitude she continually proves as I can't say this. Well, we're skipping this word.
Wait, what's the word? What's the word?
I can't say it. If I always want to say like synonymous. There we go.
Oh, okay.
I always have a hard time saying synonymous. Okay, with the legacy that follows the Van Helsing bloodline. But when the universe she thinks she knew becomes much larger than she can fathom, will what comes for her next finally be the end of the famed vampire hunter? Or will she stand her ground as she faces Oblivion, beating it back like she has done so many times before? Don't miss this game-changing collection of stories that will redefine everything Liesl has come to know. It collects Van Helsing Annual Bloodlust, Van Helsing 50, Van Helsing Black Annis, Van Helsing Hellfire, Van Helsing Steampunk, Van Helsing Invisible Woman, Van Helsing Beast of Exmoor, Van Helsing Return of the League of Monsters Part 1 and 2, and fun fact, if you want to hear about all of those stories or you want a teaser of all of those stories, almost every story except for Bloodlust has been, and number 50 I might have talked about a little bit, has been its own NCW episode, which means that this graphic novel is literally also the entire run of NCW.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, fun fact. So which ones have you written out of this?
I wrote Invisible Woman and Return of the League of Monsters 1 and 2. I came on Invisible Woman. That was my first story back at Zenescope. I think, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 years off. So that was my return. It was a grand return. And then Brian Hawkins did
Beast of Exmoor and
then
Black Annis, I think.
Yes, but yeah, Beast of Exmoor came between Invisible Woman, and then Return is when my full run that's still ongoing started. So Return 1 and 2 ties up some things that were going on in this and kind of sets us up for the next arc. And then the next arc is the current Van Helsing versus Hybrid storyline that I've been doing the past about a year, yeah.
So if you guys are interested, like I mentioned before, there have been NCWs on almost all of these stories. And the last story of this entire graphic novel is Van Helsing Return of the League of Monsters Part 2, which I think came out in January of this year, right?
I think it was December, or maybe it was supposed to be December, but it pushed to January because I
think Part 1 was December and Part 2 was January. I want to say it was like first week of January or something.
Oh, probably that then, yeah.
But I don't even know. Casey, could you pop up that cover one more time? Okay, so all of the names on the bottom are all the authors. I was just wondering. Oh, and Lou Lavino wrote one too. You're right. I screwed that up. But I was just wondering. I'm like, what did we put as the names on all of them? We put all the authors. Like sometimes we put like Ralph's name on there. Sometimes we put an artist name and interior name. But we did the 4 writers of the story.
Yes. Yeah, I think Joe wrote at least the annual, maybe more. And I know that Lou wrote Steampunk, and Brian wrote Black Annis and Beast of Exmoor, and I wrote the second to last and last. Sorry.
So, what do you think the next Van Helsing collection is going to be called, graphic novel wise?
What is it going to be called? It should reference her past, because it's about her looking to her past and kind of reassessing her opinion of her father living in the shadow of that legend. It could be Van Helsing Shadow of Legend, or it could be Van Helsing Shadow of the Past. I would want to like think and come up with a really good one, but because I have Oblivion's good. I don't
know anything about that title. Like, did Joe come up with it? Did Dave come up with it? Did you come up with it, or this was just the title handed?
I didn't. Because when I got back on Van Helsing, I read everything that had been written since the end of my first run, because I wrote the first 4 trades. My last one was Van Helsing versus the Mummy of Amun-Ra, and there's been years since then, so I read all of it, and it was a marathon read, so I cannot say that I remember what the Eye of Oblivion is, but it's a good title though.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Van Helsing Re-Emerging could be the next series.
Maybe.
Van Helsing team ups, because she's had a lot of team ups lately.
She has, but she's also, part of her ongoing arc is how alone she feels and how much she feels that she shouldn't be teaming up with people, but she just keeps doing it,
I know, right? That's what I was just actually thinking. She is such like an emo girl hidden in her, right? So she's very like on her own. And Robin Hood to a certain extent is also, but Robin Hood doesn't have like this like emo girl inside of her.
No, Robin has a very angry girl inside of her.
She does. Yeah. This is totally off topic, but it made me laugh because of your Facebook. Pat talked about erotica. Yeah.
All right, so Noah there is talking about Exotica. Exotica is a convention that I did this past year. Zenescope should be doing Exotica.
It's in Jersey, right?
It was in Jersey. Zenescope should for sure be doing Exotica. I was the only one who had comics there because it is a sex-based convention, a sex-positive convention, and what they sell there is what you would assume they sell there. I was between a trifecta of booths. Over here, it was paddles, right? And the guy who was selling the paddles was both demonstrating and selling them. On this side of me, brazzers, okay? Then directly in front of me was someone who was giving out lap dances. Well, not giving, selling lap dances. So between those, I'm selling graphic novels, books, and we have some sexy covers, so those sold very well. I was overall, what it did for me was it made me think beyond just Comic Cons. I'm a writer. I write comics and graphic novels, but there's a whole market out there for these kind of conventions that are not just comics focused. And I stood out there by being the comics guy, and people wanted it. People enjoyed seeing something different there. So I encourage people who are comics creators to look at what you do and see if there's any possibility of checking out conventions beyond just comics. Just grow your brand, grow yourself, and I think that you'll find that there is success to be had there beyond what we imagined.
Yeah, some of my clients at Read Pop who've really tapped into it do a lot of interesting conventions and tell me they have wild success. So a lot of them do FurryCon, and they do pretty well at FurryCon.
Oh boy, okay.
And I always say BronyCon, which is the pony, like My Little Pony type of con. They do very, very well there. BronyCon is also a very popular one.
I wonder what I could sell at a damn BronyCon. Who knows?
But yeah, no, I completely agree. There was a time, and it didn't really work out this year because it's difficult with our team. We're so small and we do the VCons and stuff, but we really wanted to get us more into horror cons. Like, I know that our stuff will sell really, really well there, but it's just a challenge when we're strapped for how many shows we can go to a year. But Exoticon. I don't know. You're right. Okay, so I think our covers, our collectibles would do really well there, but I don't know if we'd be like semi-disappointing people, because when they'd open the story and they read the book, it's like nothing sexual.
Well, all right. So here's the thing. They asked those questions. Like, I had my book that has like sexual elements is Thirsty and Cheeky, and I'm just thirsty there. So people would pick it up and they would ask what it is. And I'm like, all right, that's the one that has adult stories. This one has a sexy cover and it has elements of romance, but it's not that, you know? So they're very inquisitive because they aren't used to going up to a publisher and seeing comics there. They don't know what to expect. So they ask enough questions that they wouldn't be disappointed.
In the background, there's a private chat going on, and Casey and Noah are not about doing furry cons. And
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. And I will say, I have seen and spoken to furries at other conventions. Do what you guys do, but I don't know, like the Disney eyes that they wear in those suits are all the same, and they are kind of freaky to me. But if that's your thing, throw it up. I mean,
look, well, I had no judgment out here, obviously.
Yeah,
no judgment out here. But I think that gives us to a really great segue of, I'm sure you guys will find out soon what our 2023 convention schedule will look like. It will be different than our 2022 convention schedule, but obviously I think you can make some assumptions of where we'll be headed. Like, I can't ever not see us doing San Diego and not see us doing New York. But it will be interesting what shows we may add or lose for 2023. So we'll announce those pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. But Pat, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
We'll do some more research into Exoticon.
I mean, I'm doing it every year now.
Every year we could send someone with Pat at his booth for research purposes.
Honestly, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Casey's going like this in the background. I think we really know who on our team would really want to go, but I'm not going to say that out loud, and that's all I'll say.
I know. Yes, I know as well. In fact, a little side story for Zenescope fans. Raven Gregory begged me to fly him out, and I was like, Are you like a hot girl? Like, what do you think is going on? I'm gonna fly you out, bro? No.
Are you gonna attract people to the booth?
Yeah, like, what are you gonna do, dude? Are you gonna dress as one of my characters? That wouldn't be cool. But all right, so at Exotica, right, I had a small press booth. It was the size of a booth that you would see a publisher have at a, not like a New York style booth, but a normal other convention. They give you a lot of space.
Was it a 10 by 10?
I'd say it was a 12 by 12 at least.
Wow.
It was huge. I had one table. I drove back home hours just to buy more tables. I came back with 3 tables, and it was a huge square of it. It was great. And yeah, it's definitely worth doing. It's definitely worth doing. And if you want to have some Zenescope representation there, I'd be happy to do that as well. You know, split the booth. That'd be cool.
Pat's about getting us to Exoticon. So
I mean, I was talking to Ralph about it. I think that you guys would crush it.
Yep. Stay tuned, everyone. Find out what's on our 2023 schedule.
Who knows? Oh, before I go though, please let me shout my Kickstarter right now.
Yeah.
It is tinyurl.com/MMMA comic. That is Mixed Magical Martial Arts. It's a sports, drama, comedy, graphic novel. It is in the Destiny New York universe. It is about a normal, disgraced UFC fighter. She joins an underground fight club of witches, mages, seers, psychics, all that stuff. And she has to try to figure out how she can compete with all these amazing powers when all she has is her fists. That's up now for 2 more days now. So let's go. Thank you for the link. Boom, it's in the comments.
2 more days to back Pat's Kickstarter.
Yes. Wonderful. And it's sports. It's sports. You'll notice I brought in co-writers here. But They didn't know about sports either, so it's a lot of research. I now know more about mixed martial arts than anything.
You ever know. Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Pat. I will have you on very, very soon.
Thank you much. I'll be back.
Yep. So if you missed it, we just talked about our 3 new releases today. We had 2 single issues and a graphic novel. Our first single issue was our Belle Annual, which you'll want to see the baby strap turtle Hershey thing that we have in there, as well as finding out what is going on with Belle internally as she continues to grapple with the fact that she led her mother to this awful place, and also found out that her mom was alive at that point. Anyway, so check out Belle Annual. There's been a lot of Belle stories since there, but you're going to want to read Belle 25. Dave in the background is cheering because I always call it Belle 50, and I finally called it Belle 25. I don't know why I do that, but make sure that you check that out. So Belle Annual came out. Our Van Helsing Rites of Shadows, written by our Pat Shand, who was just on, as well as our graphic novel, Van Helsing Eye of Oblivion, which is $29.99 in our web store right now and collects many Van Helsing stories. And as I mentioned, if you're looking for background or info on those past stories, you're going to want to head to our past NCW episodes, and you should be able to get interviews with artists or writers on a lot of them. So head back. Okay, quick dive deep as we head towards the end of the year. I think there's only about like 6 NCWs left. Next NCW, you will know some very exciting news, which is the next location to our lovely VIP event that's happening in March. I might have Noah or Ralph come on maybe next week or following weeks to talk a little bit about that location and make sure that you guys get tickets, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of our Zenescope staff is going to be in attendance, as well as some really popular artists. Stay tuned on guest announcements for that as well. So if you have guesses as to where you think the VIP event is going to be, feel free to drop them in the comments right now. So yes, that's my part 1. Next week, I was like, today, obviously, you guys know this week's releases, but next week, our releases are, there we go, Robin Hood, The Last Stop, written by our own Joe Brusha. Again, I'll probably have either Noah or Ralph on, but I'm sure everybody will be very busy as we will be 1 day away from Thanksgiving, and I will actually not be at my house. I will be traveling during that time. I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks. Then I come home for 24 hours, and I travel on my next trip, and then I'm home for 48 hours and I travel on my next trip. So really looking forward to my entire 6 weeks of travel that I have coming up. There will be maybe a lot of NCWs on the road, but as always, like we said, we'd like to know what other guests you'd like to have on NCW. I have been messaging some of the artists to try to get them to come on. Some of them are shy, but I'm feeling optimistic that we'll get a few on soon. This week's, okay, Casey, I'm going to have you come on to talk about the Wheel of Zenescope because I'm very confused about this.
Hello, everyone. So I sent Amber an email that said, can I pop on at the end of NCW and talk about the Wheel of Zenescope? But that's okay if you didn't get it because I'm here now. So one person does know about the Wheel of Zenescope because they found it on our website already and bought it without knowing what it is. Good for you.
One person.
One person has. But this is the official announcement of the Wheel of Zenescope. Noah made me this graphic, so let's see if it works. Ooh, Wheel of Zenescope. Ooh. Thank you, Noah. You made it spin. So what it is actually really fun. It is a brand new segment that we are going to have tomorrow at our virtual convention. I believe the segment starts at 7:30, but the actual full convention with sales and all starts at 6 p.m. But basically, you are going to buy a ticket online on our web store. If you just type in Wheel of Fortune or Wheel of Zenescope, you should be able to find it. I will drop the link in after I am done. But you buy a ticket and that gets you a spot on the wheel, which will be shown at the virtual convention. If your name is picked from the wheel, you'll be winning one of the premium products. This includes Z-rated cereal books. This includes C-rated candy box books. This includes trading cards. The ticket is $100, but even if you lose, you're still going to get a random Ellie 100. So it's almost free to play, kind of. Like you just are getting a
What are
random
these
book.
Vegas rules out here, Casey?
I did not come up with the Vegas rules, but it sounds like it's very fun. I did come up with the wheel in the background though.
Magical.
Hold on. I put it to the side so I could Vanna White it.
Wow. Wheel of Zenescope tomorrow.
Wow. So yes.
I secretly want to pop on in the background tomorrow just because I can talk smack to Jason for a little bit, but I didn't talk that much smack, which is very impressive for me, only because, as we all know, the Cowboys also lost this weekend.
That and somebody's 3-7.
Yeah,
but
well, you know, somebody just lost to the Commanders, which is very sus. I'm very happy that the Eagles lost, and I think you should be too. And a lot of Eagles fans told me that they are happy that they lost because they felt if they went into the playoffs at an undefeated season and they lost in the opening round of the bye, after their bye, they'd have been really embarrassed. So at least that pressure is off of you guys.
I guess.
Yeah, my fantasy team is terrible. I'm 3-7 right now, but I will have you know that I'm on a 2-game winning streak. Okay. I beat Joe last week and I beat Ralph this week. And it should also be noted that even though my fantasy team is terrible, if every fantasy player played the way they were supposed to, I'd always have the amount of points that I had this past week. But nobody on my team wants to get their stuff together. So it's been very depressing. And that's why I've shifted focus instead to my margins pool, where there's a lot of money involved and I have a chance to win that league.
Okay.
I'm also making a bet right now with my friend who's an Eagles fan, who is making a really bad bet. So that's why I'm all in. He's betting that the Eagles will go to the Super Bowl. And that's just like a really just bad bet only because that's the, like, it's not that the Eagles will only win 2 games. Like everything's on the line right there. So as long as the Eagles don't go to the Super Bowl, which I have a better chance of that happening, then I'll win. It's a bad bet. So I'm doing it.
It's not a bad bet.
The Eagles will not win the Super Bowl. You hear it now. That's right.
They have to go to the Super Bowl. That's the bet, right?
That's all they have to do. All they have to do is go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's it.
We got this.
I don't know. I still am convinced that the best team in the NFC is probably the 49ers right now. Although the Vikings really impressed me this weekend, and I was very hyped for their win. It was a fantastic game. If you missed it, it should be noted.
No, that was an absolutely insane game.
This is a really good note. Playing in the Super Bowl. That's right. Qualifying as a team in the Super Bowl. Thank you for the clarifications.
I was going to say, what if it's the Chiefs and Jason Kelsey is watching his brother play?
And Andy Reid is in attendance, obviously.
Yeah. No. Doesn't count. Fair enough.
So again, that's our fun wheel of Zenescope. Make sure that you tune in to Fall Fest tomorrow, right?
This is the stipulation too, is to get a Wheel of Zenescope ticket. There's only 40 tickets available, and the max you can get is 2.
Go by ASAP, but also let's talk about this week's winner of the NCW collectible cover.
Georgia!
Yay! Congratulations, Georgia. You have gotten our NCW showcase version of the collectible cover. Lots of confetti. Yay. This is a longer NCW than we've done in a really long time. I'm kind of okay with that. Next week's will be pretty short. Once I ask Noah if he wants to come on, we'll see if he's interested. But other stuff that's happening, Fall Fest is tomorrow. Tune in if you want me to just talk smack in the comments for 3 seconds, because I will, and I have a lot of meetings at night, so I will be up. But make sure that you tune in. And then also happening this week is Movie Club.
Ooh.
There you go.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen Jennifer's Body?
I told you. Every single movie on this list is a first time.
That's right. Jennifer's Body is a very fun movie. Is it like a really good movie? Is it a fun movie? Yes.
Okay. Good to know. I did like Trick or Treat. I was surprised.
Trick or Treat's a fantastic movie.
It was really good. Yeah, I have to admit.
Trick or Treat is a fantastic movie. Other stuff that's happening, like I mentioned before, the newest episode of Everything Zen dropped today. So make sure you go to our YouTube channel or you listen to where you get podcasts from and you listen to it. And then, like I mentioned, maybe 2 NCWs from now, aka November 30th, I can convince Stu when I'm in the office to come on NCW with me because the people want it.
They do. There was a lot of comments. They wanted. They
really wanted Stu. We all talked about it. My people, aka my manager, Casey, needs to talk to Stu's manager. I don't know who Stu's manager is.
Stu is his own manager.
He reps himself, noted, to see who come on. But yeah. And then don't forget to tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. with Coffee with Casey and Noah. As we enter the holiday season, I'm sure there might be an NCW we missed, or there might be other stuff that's going on. So stay tuned about everything that's happening there. And I'm looking to see if I missed anything. And there was something that I did miss, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, our holiday VCon. Our holiday VCon. If you're a VIP, holiday VIP VCon, if you're a VIP, that will be taking place December 1st, time TBD. So more info to come on that. Make sure that you check out your Facebook group. Okay, that was it on NCW here at Zenescope, where you come for the covers, but you stay for the stories. We will see everybody next Wednesday for your next NCW, and tomorrow for Fall Fest, and then Friday for Jennifer's Body, and then also Monday for Coffee with Casey and